Good morning, everybody. It's morning for me still. I want to talk about technique, a strategy for you, and when you think about using technique deliberately as a way to communicate something more emotionally in your playing. I've talked about this before on some videos and in classes that I offer up. This topic is coming to you today because this Saturday I'm offering up a essential blues harmonica technique is what I'm calling it, class. It's an online class. It's a webinar style class. You can join live and see me teaching, ask your own questions. It's all recorded, so if you can't make it live, you get a link to download it or stream it later. And I'm going to break down a lot of stuff in the class. I'm going to break down kind of really intricate mechanics of bending and ways to approach it. I'm going to talk about hand technique, dirty notes, warbles, tongue slaps, tongue flutters, octaves, these essential ingredients that make up some of the sweetest sounds in blues harmonica. I'll put a link to it. It's $20 to join, and you can check out that link in the video description. So back to this topic about using technique as a really concrete way to become more emotional in your playing. Look at what I did at the intro. I didn't do anything but play to draw. I didn't blow. It didn't move to any other hole. But I was able to make all these different sounds and statements out of just that hole. And this is something that you can do by not moving around as much on the instrument and just settling in a spot and relying on your technique more to speak for you. Instead of it being an afterthought, like a hand wah or a quick vibrato and on to the next thing, really milk these these tools you have. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's take octaves and splits when you're playing the notes out of the side of your mouth. And let me show you what I would do here for something like this. I'll start the track over. Listen to how I'm using just these octaves and splits, and then we'll talk about it. But here we go. Whoops. So what did I do differently in this example? I didn't even use single notes, right? I wasn't bending. I took simple phrases and I held these octaves just to allow them to sort of create the emotional quality. So on the 5 chord, I went to 2-5 draw. And when the 4 chord came around, I went to the 1-4 blow. Long holds and simple lines. Just these quick, simple little lines. So this, to me, is much more communicative, musically speaking, than somebody just throwing in a quick octave. The octave doesn't have a chance to really speak. And in the beginning of the clip, in that 2 draw, you can hear how I just laid down some thick vibrato. You know, it creates this really molasses-like texture and super bluesy feel. You don't really need to move anywhere. Then I started throwing the hand technique on top of the vibrato. And then that, even exaggerated that even more. The key ingredient is that you're not moving around. The key part of this is to stay somewhere and have a moment with the technique. If it was a flutter, I might just hold that flutter for as long as I could. Take a breath and go back to it. Something that simple. In the class that I'm offering up Saturday, besides breaking down all the techniques, I'm going to share with you one simple blues riff for every technique. And then at the end, we'll talk about how you start combining these techniques and layering them together. Just like I mentioned, that vibrato in the hand wah sounds like this. So that could be a really good strategy, is practicing just two techniques at once layered. Again, I'm going to get into detail about how you can take various techniques and then begin to layer them together. This is something I don't think the average player is thinking about. So as you go back and you work on your technique today, maybe take stock and evaluate, 1 to 10, sort of write down the technique you're using. If it's in the world of tongue blocking and you only play octaves, write down octaves. I'm bending, I'm using hand technique, and then rate yourself. Maybe I'm a 7 with my hand technique or a 3 with my octaves. They're not coming out very often, but every once in a while. You know where to spend your time on which techniques, and then you have a strategy for kind of putting them together, which is to say less is more. Don't focus on playing these intricate ideas. Let that come later. You know, you can. And the other thing is, you can only move as fast as your technique will allow you to articulate the phrase or the idea. All right, I'm gonna leave you with some jamming here, just a tiny bit, and play you out. I'll try to focus on this approach so you can hear some more examples. Hope you guys have a great day, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Saturday. I'll catch you next week on YouTube. Have a good one.